join the Basu. I would request our Vice Chancellor and Indira ma'am and Ms. Ina Bose and Shantanu Roy sir and everybody please to come up and water the plants. Also I would request our Dean of Hospitality, Sir M.P. Verma, Worship sir, and of course Mr. Bhattacharya from CMA.
तुषार लाइट जला ना
So much that Indira ma'am is here is indeed an opportunity, and it's a great experience for us. We're clearly honored to have you here with us. I would request our Honorable Vice Chancellor, Professor Dr. Dhruvajyoti Chattopadhyay, to offer the inaugural address. Sir.
Good morning, everybody. Yeah, I think it's good afternoon. Anyway, today we all gathered one day after the 5th of June, and you have just seen this video where it has been shown that how actually the concept of this World Environment Day been started. Though we have started it long time back, where we stand, that's also been presented before you. Now today, we are gathered over here to discuss some of the very important problems of this environment. And let me first, on behalf of the Sister Nivedita University, welcome one of the eminent environmentalists, Professor Dr. Indira Chakravarti, who is working in the field of this for a very, very long period of time. And we will come to know about her a little bit after. I also like to thank the CMA who are with us for celebration of this particular very important program. Now, Calcutta Management Association is very much interested to have number of programs jointly organized between us, which are very relevant for our society, because both of us are actually trying hard to establish that during the education, one of the most important education is for be a good human being. And if we can't be like that, if we don't feel for our society, then there is no meaning of education, no meaning of the high grade, no meaning of what you have learned. Proper knowledge is actually how to disseminate it. And there, all of you have to be the soldiers to protect our environment. And how we are going to be the soldier to protect our environment is something what we have to believe in ourselves, what we have to understand this. Now, you know that from the very beginning that when we started this inauguration process, normally we avoid the lamp lighting. Why? because it causes some sort of carbon footprinting. And one of the major challenges of this world right now is the increase in the carbon footprinting. And just to avoid that, we thought, why don't you try the best way of celebration, inaugurating any program by watering the plants. You know, the plants demonstrates in life. And when you are watering that, the water is something which is the most important for keeping our environment in a positive mood. Without water, you know what's going to happen. In fact, people used to say that water is something which may be the reason for the Third World War, what we are talking about. So you can easily understand the importance of water. And we are very happy that our main speaker today is going to give her deliberation on this. Ma'am, thank you for coming over here, and I always feel very proud that you are with us whenever we want you to be here. And you'll be happy to know that while we are setting up the nutrition department over here, she helped quite a bit to us. So thank you for that also. I also like to thank the senior members over here, but the CMA Anirban is here. I really like to thank you, but we wanted a couple of other people also, but because of the very short period of time we could not. One of the major things what we tried to do that amongst the students, we wanted to have some sort of poster competition. Interestingly, what we found that when we said that this poster competition, we categorized into 5 different categories which covers the most part of our environment. And while doing that, one thing we have actually thought that this poster is going to be given a chance for our student to express themselves to what about their feeling about the environment. Whatever be, he may be a science, he may be an arts student, he may be a commerce students, or whatever be the student, management students or anything. And lastly, I just want to mention that, you know, this year, this Environment Day, the theme is only one earth. Now, I'm sure that the last 2 years, the virus already taught us. This COVID virus already taught us only one earth. Because no part of the world is actually not being covered by this deadly virus. Everyone actually. And there it actually showed us that it's not poverty. It's not whether you are rich or you have a huge amount of facilities in your country. The virus actually attacked everyone. And that itself says that if we right now, from this period of time, 2022 onwards, think about any problem, we have to think about globally. Because everything is right now connected. Network is becoming so important. And all these things reflects why the importance of this year's theme, only one earth. We have to feel we are not a Calcutta only, we are not an Indian only, but we are the inhabitant of our Mother Earth. And that will help us to develop ourselves also from an absolutely different angle. So, with these few words, looking forward to this very interesting lectures deliberated, which will be deliberated by our important guests, environmentalist Professor Indira Chakravarti and Jayant Basu. Both of us are very renowned in this particular field. Looking forward to their lecture. And thank you CMA, thank you all of you, the faculty members who are present over here, the students and everyone, and the administrative staff and everyone who are present here for making this program a real success. Thank you. Namaskar.
Thank you so much. So, indeed, as Sir said, the pandemic has taught us even more that there is only one Earth. People, we might become extinct. Now we come to that part of the event where all of you, our students, have been looking forward to, for the keynote address of Indira Chakravarti ma'am. She is an Indian public health specialist, scholar, and environmentalist. Her Wikipedia, if you just search her on Google, it mentions Indian activist. That is what she is. Because the issues that she has raised over and over again, and made us aware of things that we didn't know earlier. It was her work that opened our eyes wide open to the concerns that we face today. Of course, in 2014, she received the Padma Shri, the fourth highest civilian award by the Government of India, for her contributions in the field of public health and environment. She is, of course, from our state, and she's secured a PhD in biochemistry from Calcutta University, followed by a second doctoral degree. She's extremely active in the spheres of food safety and hygiene industry of India, and globally has participated in several projects, and in fact taken India to a world map, secured our place worldwide, that as Indians, whatever the world says, we are also very much concerned about our hygiene and health. That is what she has done for us. We are extremely grateful for us, because no amount of introduction, no amount of intro for her will justify the person she is, what she's done for the earth, for the world, for us, for mankind. Ma'am, we are all waiting to hear from you today, learn a lot. I would request the Vice Chancellor to please come up and felicitate ma'am. I would request our students of Finance Department and Mass Comm Department to help Vice Chancellor with felicitating her. The gifts have been carefully curated by our students of the Finance Department and the Biotech Department. But all the other departments of Allied Health Sciences and everybody's helped to make this success. It is their thoughtful ideas about presenting a gift. A small tidbit, the video, ma'am, has been made by the students of our Mass Communication and Journalism Department.
It's indeed a great pleasure, a great honor to be invited to give this talk. Your Vice Chancellor, Professor Chakravarti, is known to me for years, many, many years. And I don't know whether you know about some of the most innovative things that he has done. When none of us thought of biotechnology, I come from the same department. He broke away from the Department of Biochemistry and created the Department of Biotechnology, a completely new concept those days, a new department with a new space, with new people, and that's something which was very, very difficult. And not only here, he had to get grants from DST, he had to get grants from ministries, and he had to get it recognized. And it's not always easy, it's not only academically difficult, it's politically difficult. But he managed to overcome all that, and he fathered that department. So on a very lighter note, I would perhaps say, I don't know whether you all know that Dhruv has 2 daughters. So I keep telling him he doesn't have 2 legitimate children, he has a 3rd legitimate child, and this is the biotechnology department. So it's not an illegitimate, a legitimate child. So he has 3 legitimate children, 2 wonderful girls doing extremely well in their lives, whom I think he's extremely proud, and we are all very proud of because I know them since they were small, and a wonderful biotechnology department thriving so well now. He has put it on place. So I think he has a lot of feathers in your cap. This is one thing which I thought I should share with you. I'm very glad I have been asked to give this talk. I have been basically a public health person. But what I did was I broke away, basically, from pure public health into issues related to food safety, issues related to water and sanitation. I was instrumental in setting up of FSSI, the Food Safety Standards Institution, in 2008, and was a very strong part of it. And as you now know, FSSI is completely in place now, and doing so well, it has to give every food a mark. I'm still very involved with them, but I think that is an organization which has done so well. With Dhruv, we have done a lot of very innovative work. When I was the regional director of MI of IDRC, South Asia, we did wonderful projects, which I'm not mentioning right now. But one of the projects we did with WHO support on water sanitation, I will be mentioning subsequently, when I was the regional director, the advisor of WHO. I broke away from the government of India for 29 years as director of the Ministry of Hygiene and Public Health and CVCI as an additional DG. I used to go away on deputation to these international agencies. I was just telling you, but I always came back to my state and to my government. Always. After 2 years of deputation, I always came back and didn't continue. Looking back, I think that was a very good thing to do because whatever I could do all these years was basically because I decided to come back always. So what I will mention today is the 2 most critical things that I think is very important in one world, one earth, one place for us to stay. When we think of wash is something, as we say, water, sanitation, hygiene, are the 3 most critical issues. We always say public health doesn't mean health of diseases. It is how you prevent diseases. So we have to, one of the strongest pillars. If you look into everything now, they say there are 3 pillars of public health. Now, there's 3 pillars. One is proper environment, one is proper nutrition, and the 3rd is proper physical activity. I think basically these 3 things can keep all diseases away as far as possible, most of them. So I think the 3 pillars of public health is this, and priority is environment because there are multiple issues there. You have nutrition is one issue, but when you think of environment, it's water, it's sanitation, it's garbage management, everything is involved. Environment is affected by so many multiple multi-dynamic issues. Cleanliness and hygiene, therefore, I think all these issues are of great importance. Universal sanitation, safe drinking water, waste management, and hygiene at all levels. If you can't do all these 4, you cannot have proper water sanitation linked interventions. So what is needed? What do you need for all this? I mean, that just boiled down to, people say 2 things, I put down 3 things. First is, yes, you need infrastructure. You just can't say I want water. You need the infrastructure. For sanitation, yes, you need infrastructure. Whatever you need infrastructure. Somebody has to support it. You have to get the water. You have to get proper toilets to go to the toilet. Second thing is how to use it properly, how to ask for it, how to demand for it. And once you get it, how to use it, maintain it properly, is for something with awareness generation. So that's very, very important. To demand, to use, to get, and to maintain it for your future generations. So awareness is very important. Third thing I always like to add is we have some very good traditional practices, especially our country. India has traditional and wonderful traditional practices. You don't need to deviate away from them. So whatever traditional practices we had for years together is something is very important. For example, West Bengal were known to have ponds. Every house had a pond earlier. There is nothing better than rainwater harvesting, better than ponds. And we are now away from that. And we had ponds for drinking water, where nothing else was done. Other ponds where cattle was washed and other things were done. They never mixed up ponds. So this is something which is very, very important. I just remember a story, I'm suddenly telling it. My father was a very well-known doctor, physician, chest specialist. His name was Dr. P.K. Sen. My father came from a village called Faridpur. We had gone to Faridpur after the liberation. I took my mother. My mother was Dr. Mukta Sen, the first lady medical doctor from Karnataka. She's a Karnataki, so I'm a mixed breed. So we had gone to Faridpur, and we went to a pond which was dug by my grandfather. Years back, he was a driver in those days. And the pond was beautiful, small pond. And I find on two sides, maybe now it's 150-year-old before he had wrote it. On one side was written waste not, on the other side was written want not, on that marble thing. Waste not and want not. So people, even 50 years back, realized that you should not waste water. If you waste water, you will want it one day. If you waste not and want not. So you see, these are traditional practices which has come with us for years, and which is very, very important that for our people like us, we were born in India, we should think of these traditional customs. Not that all, like I always say, street food is much better than junk food, fast food. I'll come to that later on. So keep our traditional practices, keep our traditional practices. I'll talk of two major programs which have been involved, which Committee of India initiated, and I think these were two very, all politics apart, I think these two major programs were much, much needed, much, much needed. One was the Swachh Bharat Mission, where they said every person must have a toilet. Open defecation was more than 80% in the country, and I'll come to it later on how bad it is. Now it has now moved into, after 2019, now it's called Solid Liquid Waste Management, SLWM. It is now waste management. So first, Swachh Bharat Mission was totally on sanitation. Now it's going on waste management. So I think both are extremely critical for sanitation, extremely critical for sanitation and hygiene. And the second program that's going on is the Jal Jeevan Mission, which has many programs of how to retain groundwater, how to do water harvesting, how to use wastewater, treat it and use it for drinking and other purposes. But I have used one thing that there should be universal access to water for everyone, safe water for everyone. This is second. These two, I think, very important projects are something that the Swachh Bharat Mission, the data that is shown is when it started in 2000, there was only 16% coverage. You can understand. 16% coverage. Only 16% people had toilets. As the data shows, till 2019 was 93%. Supposed to have been nearly reached 100% now. So the increase was exponential as from a WHO study, which is indicated based on the Swachh Bharat Mission and WHO's own report. This is how the graph shows how it has gone up. The next one was Jal Jeevan Mission. This is which is going on right now. If you look into it now, that the increase that has happened in the last 2.5 years, the measurement is from 2019, not from 2020. But you can see how it has still got nearly 2 years to go. But you see already Anganwadi coverage has reached 17%. Schools have reached 83% coverage. So this is also going on extremely well with tap water coverage, safe drinking water coverage. And people have been constantly telling that please do not use much of groundwater. Take pipelines and take water from big rivers, from huge river sources. So conservation of groundwater, using of wastewater, giving proper water to most of schools, Anganwadis, people's households is one of the main targets of this project. It has been going on very well. With 2 years to go, we expect this to reach the target. When you look into the linkage, I'm very fond of this point. When you look into the thing, ultimately feel dirty of environment by doing open defecation, it reaches the people. It is not that you defecate somewhere and you leave it there. No, it comes to the people. The bad element where the first level, second level comes through food, comes through various things. I'm not doing too much. But the environment is totally polluted if you don't have proper sanitation. It might be primary, it may be secondary, but everywhere water is a major source. But along with that, you have food, you have agriculture, you have insects, everything carries into you. See, a dirty environment is what population is affected, people are affected. So it's not that we will be away from it, as Dhruva mentions, one word, it will go all over, it's all over. So one has to be very, very conscious. I'll now come to what my topic of my talk is, impact on wash and public health. I will give you a couple of slides giving the impact theoretically, but I'll not explain them too much. I'll come into a couple of case studies which we have done, and which will properly tell you the case study results of what really happens on public health when this proper wash facility is given or not given. This is a diagram which I usually like to show that we have Ar6 Report and sanitation. It links into, first of all, diseases, there's no doubt about it. Secondly, it leads to, because people have to carry, leads to diarrhea, so there will be loss of nutrients from the body, which is a very, very important thing, which also uses absorbing capacity. It leads to worm infestation, and there are toxic implications, as you know now, arsenic in drinking water, fluoride in drinking water, and eventually leads into economic loss, health, nutrition, all chapters of life. I left out one part of it, accessibility, which I'm going to come later on. Another slide which I like to show, where water sanitation is right on the top, and you have its impact on public health, nutrition, gender, social, economic impact, which all comes into every issue of public health. I'll come into the case studies again. It comes into every issue of public health. Don't think maternal mortality is away from it. Don't think child mortality is away from it. Don't think low birth weight is away from it. Everything is impacted unless you have safe water sanitation. So poor water sanitation, basically if you boil down, causes 6 things: health, malnutrition. I'll come to drudgery, how it happens to drudgery. That's one of my most favorite studies that we did in Sudan and in Nepal. How it showed how drudgery, how water sanitation impacts on drudgery, mostly women, disability, economic losses and stress. There are studies which have shown that 75% to 30% of disabilities can be prevented if you have proper water sanitation, that is less infection, less disease, and proper nutrition of the mother when she's pregnant or before she gets pregnant and later on. So these are some issues we never link, never link, but these are issues which are very, very important. Benefits of wash on health. There are several benefits. I should have brought these slides as a matter of fact at the end of it, after the case studies. This is something which I thought of just giving you just a view. I'm not going to explain much on it. Infection I already mentioned. Reduced loss of time and energy. I'll give you a case study on this and tell you how there's reduced lot of both nutrients and energy from the body if you have water sanitation. Main impact is on women and children. As I said, it improves several health-related indicators. Most of MMR, low birth weight, infant mortality rate, under 5 mortality rate. It gives spare time to women to care more for children. I'll explain why when I come to the case studies. More mental alertness, and you have people-centric approaches, so more social behavior and overall well-being of people. Nutrition is mostly all linked to it, what I already mentioned, just repetitive, that women are more impacted upon by these things rather than men, because they are the main collectors and users of water. So if there's scarcity of water and sanitation, they get impacted far more than men, and also there's a cause of worm infestation, which is one of the precipitating factors of the most critical public health problem that we have today, which is nutritional anemia. One of the most critical problems is very closely related to worm infestation. And lastly, of course, women have mentioned, these are some of the things which I will hear all again. I'm not going to details again. I'll come into wash and health now. Then I'll come to wash and health and nutrition. Wash and health, as I've shown you, is a very complicated issue because it's a multi-dynamic impact. Just not one, it's on several things. If you look into the diseases that it causes, I'll just give you a list of diseases. Type of diseases, I've just picked up a few, waterborne diseases, where it is the infection is in water. Water-based diseases, where scarcity of water causes these diseases. These water-wash diseases where the insect has a cycle in a marine animal. And the last one is major water-related diseases which actually breathe in water and bite people or when you go near the water. So all these, so it is a multi-dynamic impact of different kinds if you do water-related disease. There are more than 100, I've just mentioned a few, to show you that water-related diseases are of so many types. We have just got 4 classifications, but hundreds of them if you look into the details of each one. Water and excreta again is also a very, very related issue because any excreta will dirty the water first of all, but the excreta itself also causes a lot of infections. Coming to water, health and nutrition, well, just all these I'm putting into 4 bullets. First of all is infection, which causes diseases, which leads to poor health and undernutrition. So infection is number 1. Number 2 is worm infestation, because if you have open defecation on the soil, it will lead to worm infestation. I'll come into explaining all that later on. And this is the thing which I will explain to you later, and which I think is extremely important, that when water is not given to you near your habitat, you need to walk and get the water. And it's mostly the women. They have to walk for the water, maybe miles and miles of walking, and they come back with at least 20 liters, if not more, carrying a load of water. So the amount of body energy that is spent and the time that is spent to go collect the water and come back is huge if you count it every day. And secondly, what is most important is the energy that you spend comes from your nutrition. So what happens is where women can't eat much. We did the study in Sudan where women hardly get to eat 16 to 1700 calories a day. And they have to walk to the Kharif 6 hours to get the water, come back 6 hours. And they spend about 800 calories of their body energy to get the water. Therefore, more than 50% of the food that they eat is spent to carry water. So I always used to tell them that water gives you more calories than food. So to this lady, do you give her every day 800 extra calories of food, which is impossible, or do you give a water source near the house so that she can save those 800 calories which she's spending every day? So I think these are very little things we never realize, that it's so important that water saves drudgery, saving of calories, saving of nutrients from the body. And the last one, we have done a lot of work on arsenic and fluoride, but I won't be sharing the work here. But arsenic is a very critical problem because firstly, it has a huge health impact, all of you must be knowing, and secondly, it has a huge capacity of entering our food chain. And we have gone into detail of which kind of food and how much goes in. We've done a lot of studies on that with ICMR. I will not be giving this case study today, but it's a very critical thing that arsenic has a huge impact now in so many states, started with only 10, now nearly every state, and West Bengal was one of the forerunners. So this is, I'm not going into that much. The second thing I'll just mention very quickly, which I went very far on, is food safety. That when you talk of water sanitation, the first point which is impacted upon is food safety. Because first of all, flies take all the dirt to them, people carry germs on their feet. We don't realize that we are carrying our germs on our feet. We are going, you see, when you go to a toilet, we come out with your shoes, and there is night soil matter under your shoes. We don't realize it. But when we walk somewhere, it becomes in a dust. And the dust flies and goes into your feet. So it is very important. I think I was saying traditional practices. As you know, in most of the Indian houses earlier, we had to leave shoes outside and go barefoot into the house. I think many of the houses, we still follow this. Very, very good habit. Extremely good habit. Because you don't know what you're under your shoes, what you're carrying. How much of dust which has night soil you're carrying. How much of infection you're carrying. Leave it outside of your house. Because in your house, your children will claw around, you will sit on the floor, you will pick up something which dropped on the floor, you'll keep it up and put it on your dining table. So you don't realize how you are propagating the dust everywhere. So keep the dust inside your house clean. So these are something very simple that keep your shoes which is taking all the dirt on your behalf, leave them out. Leave them out, let them go out, let them come back again, but leave them out. Don't bring them into your household. So these are some of the very good traditional practices I think we had, which we need to continue. Utensils need to be kept clean, and unsafe water for cooking will also contaminate food. So these are some of the issues I thought I would mention. Gastrointestinal disorder is one of the main things. Again, I'm very, very concerned, as you know, that it's not only loss of nutrients, reduced absorption, but overall there is a metabolic disorder. So even if it's absorbed, it's not balanced, and you will not get the full impact. Like we will count, yes, we have taken 20, for example, 1500 calories today, but actually you haven't. In the metabolic disorder, you might have lost a lot of it. Therefore, it is very, very important. During diarrhea, metabolic disorder is a very, very important thing. A lot of studies, and Dhruv had also done some work on it, which shows that metabolic disorder is completely lopsided. Some metabolites go in, some don't go in, some which go in are not actually used. It's a very complicated issue, and I'm not going into, but these are very, very important. I will mention about anemia. This is something I want to share with you. Why? People ask why. What has anemia got to do with worm infestation? See, worms, open defecation have put worms on the soil. It's a very simple study. You use it usually to explain the linkage to our PhD engineers, public health engineering department engineers, because they don't realize what is it all about. Why sanitation and anemia? When you have open defecation, the worms are in the soil, and when you go into the soil bare feet, they come in. So wearing a shoe when you are going onto a soil where there could be open defecation is an extremely good practice. So please wear your shoes when you are outside on the soil. Please do wear your shoes when you are outside in the soil where there could be open defecation. Because then the worms will, they penetrate the bottom of your feet and come into it, and they straight away reach your intestine and they start bleeding there. So when you have worms in your intestine, your GI tract, they'll constantly bleed. They'll constantly bleed. So however much iron-rich food you give, the bleeding will go on. And that is where so much of blood loss, silent, unheard, shadow blood loss, which actually is a precipitating cause, may not be the causative factor of blood loss. Dhruv was a part of this study which we did when I was a regional director of MI of IDRC. We did a wonderful study on this in 8 districts of West Bengal. With vitamin A was one of the things, and iron was one of the things. This is what we found, and wherever there was a multiple worm load, the impact was much higher. With one worm it was okay, still bad, but with multiple worm load, it was extremely poor, multiple helmintic worm load. So this is what I wanted to explain, that how we link anemia to sanitation. So causes of undernutrition, if you boil down to, I'll come to the case studies now, is 4. Inadequate intake of food, imbalanced diet. Always we talk about nutrition, these are 2 things. Loss of nutrients from the body, malabsorption, excessive physical labor. So at least 3 of them, the last 3 are directly linked, absolutely directly linked to water and sanitation. Absolutely all linked. I would even say that in a way, imbalanced diet is also indirectly linked, because if you have diarrhea, you will have metabolic disorder. So you may take a balanced diet, which becomes imbalanced inside your body. But 3 of them are absolutely directly linked. So therefore, I keep telling them, and I was just telling with Jal Jeevan Mission, we are doing an assessment on that, that we have been able to tackle most of our public health problems either very well or manageably. But undernutrition is something which is increasing day by day. And diarrhea is also increasing. I don't know whether you know, when you look at the last Arsenic report, diarrhea rate has increased in the country, not decreased. And therefore, these are the issues we need to think today, that why has nutrition, we always say, Dr. Ramalinga always said, it's an enigma. Why India is not able to call. Africa, you look into Africa, they're much poorer than us in every respect. Their nutritional status is far better than us. Why is it in India that more than 50% of our children, even till today, is undernourished? Why? So I think we have to think it's not food. It is possibly other factors, and I personally believe that one of the strong other factors could be partially genetic, but I don't think it could be genetic, because many of the other countries like Southeast Asia, they are much smaller built than us. So it may not be, I strongly feel it's water sanitation. We are not able to control the infection. We are not able to control the loss of nutrients from the body. We are not able to give them enough rest. So I think these are a couple of things which are extremely important. And let's say after Jal Jeevan Mission, and they'll all take time, it doesn't happen in a year. after this takes place, let us see in 2-3 years what happens eventually, whether we are able to make a dent on nutrition or not. Till today, no dent on undernutrition. So these are 3 things which I tried to present. 3 things I tried to present my study on 2 things. One is infection and one loss of energy and time. I'll go into the case studies. The number 1 we did years back, supported by WHO. It was done in the Midnapur district of West Bengal. And we did a lot of intervention on sanitation and health education and water, but no nutritional impact, no nutrition was given. So we did what we found, that there was reduction in diarrheal disease to some extent. Intervention was not very high order. The money wasn't that much, so we could give only partial intervention, to be very honest. And we always say you have to give total intervention. Because if I can't stop open defecation in 100%, the night soil will spread through feed from one house. It's 80% no, another 20% will actually affect the 80%. So maybe because of that, but we still had a very high level of diarrheal disease reduction significantly and worm infestation reduction. And we found eventually the nutritional status improved so much. But we gave a lot of health education, nutrition education, but wash the food, clean the food, like, all nutrition related. Only health education, no nutrition as food. There was no ICDS center those days there. And what you find here is the most important thing, that even the grade 3 children partially, grade 3 is the last grade of undernutrition, which even nutrition, food also they don't improve. We found there also there was a marginal reduction, and they moved up to grade 2. They were moving up to grade 1, moving up to normal children. So the rate of normal children increased a lot, and grade 3 marginally decreased. Though there was more impact on grade 1, but grade 3 was also impacted. So this is something which one of the path-making studies done in 1990s, as early as that. So this is the first study that we did years back. The case study 2 that we did with Tamil Nadu, which was done 2 years back, just before the lockdown started. Here what we did was with the State Planning Commission, they have, it was a multi-sectoral analysis and a comparative assessment. They have 30 districts in Tamil Nadu. So we did a sample from all the 30 districts of Tamil Nadu. And what we found, we used 25 input indicators and 15 output indicators, not going into details. We found that top districts were Kanyakumari, Chennai and Tiruvallur. And the bottom districts where sanitation was concerned were Ariyalur, Pudukkal and Thanpuri. Ariyalur was the worst, sanitation was the lowest. We found in all the above 3 nutritionally very good, proper health. But the most remarkable thing was that Ariyalur, which has the lowest sanitation, has the highest percentage of stunted children. High stunting. Stunting comes of a long-term undernutrition. Stunting came into the district which has the lowest sanitation. So we told Tamil Nadu government at that time that please start looking into Ariyalur, not only for undernutrition, giving nutritional inputs, but also building up more sanitation. But of course now then the sanitation is nearly 100% in the district now. The case study 3 was a study again in Midnapur district. This is where your Vice Chancellor was involved with me in doing this study. At that time it was at the Calcutta University. He studied, but it finished something much later. Here we took up 2 blocks and we did a cross-sectional and a longitudinal analysis. Our village, what was it earlier, what happened to it 1 year later after water was provided by our Department of Public Health and Engineering. And the other was another village which was compared, which was similar in many respects. It was an array of indicators that we used, a huge number of indicators, but one was cross-sectional, comparing between 2 adjoining blocks, and the other one was comparing with what this was earlier and what it is now. So more a longitudinal and a cross-sectional analysis, not going into much of details. So comparison was made. And I'm not going to I just show you the list of parameters to show you how many parameters we used to see that it really happens. And what we found, the significant enhancement of accessibility happened where water was concerned. Sanitation status improved to some extent. General hygiene and food hygiene status, I've got all the, I'm not showing you the data, this is just the outcome. We've got a huge amount of analysis gone into the whole thing. Instead of diarrhea reduced consistently, worm infestation reduced consistently, ARI, cough and cold, which are not really linked to water, they also reduce. Infection rate, because hygiene improves. The moment hygiene improves, your disease rate comes down. So all of these improved. There was no change in tuberculosis rate. There was no change, was not expected also. Low birth weight babies reduced significantly. Anemia reduced in all groups, especially in women. To children to all extent. Nutritional status of children improved in all the 3 categories. And food intake pattern had not changed at all. And ICDS centers, it's not mentioned, remained the same all through. So we found during this area of analysis that the improvement in public health can occur, does occur, if you can give them enough clean water. This was a solar power system in a very arid zone of Midnapur district given by the Public Health Engineering Department. The third case study is a board report we have just completed last week, 2 weeks back, submitted with Jal Jeevan Mission. The Jal Jeevan Mission is putting thousands of crores of rupees in every state to do to give them proper water from all sources, as I mentioned. But there is no public health indicator. Is it doing any improvement to public health? Is it reducing low birth weight? Is it reducing maternal mortality rate? Is it reducing any other disease pattern? Because the tragedy is decreasing, more safe water is available, much better hygiene. If a lady gets more water, she will clean herself, she will clean the house well, she will clean the children well. Is that all happening? There is no indicator for that. So we developed outcome and output indicators, which has been published in journal somewhat recently. Impacts which happen within a month, impacts which take more than a year, because everything will not happen immediately. So we made a list, we did a study and did a list of impact and input indicators in both categories. Indicators covered wash, health, nutrition, socio-economic status and gender. And we did school health separately also along with it. And these are just the type of indicators that we use to share. If anyone is interested later on, I can share the indicators, the presentation is with you. So we did a huge number of socio-economic, and these were all linked to what will happen within a year. We divided them, which will come after 1 month, which will come after a year or 2 years. So this analysis was done for the Jal Jeevan Mission to use. This was supported by WHO. This is now coming out as a WHO document very shortly. And we have just submitted it. I'll go into the 5th case study. I'm trying to race through because I think it will get boring after a while. This is a study which I mentioned to you about drudgery. This we did in Nepal, that if there's lack of easy access to water, it leads to long treks to get the water. You have to walk miles. And what happens, you lose body calories and you lose time, which leads to undernutrition, economic loss and poor health. Women and child are the major carriers. I'm sharing you with the Nepal study. We did it into the mountainous region, in the hilly region, and in the plateau region. In the plateau region, women have to walk on plain. On the mountainous regions, they have to walk with the water with slight undulation. In the mountains, they have to walk up and down. It's a huge going up, they carry the water from the down because the streams go right on top of the mountain. So it's a huge amount of energy loss, huge amount of carrying 20-25 liters of water uphill. You can understand how difficult it is for women. It's not only nutrition and health, it also causes a lot of postural changes. So you would find in the women, children, they have a lot of birth defects, because the mothers have postural changes. Because right from when they're 5 years, 6 years, they start carrying water, little pots, bigger pots, because men don't carry water. Women and the girls who carry water. So it's a huge stress on the girl child and the women there, right from childhood. So their whole postural change actually happens right from childhood, which is a huge problem in those areas. And you can't, it was very, very painful to see. Mothers have problems from their 32 years back from this and that. And ultimately the children also get impacted. So we did this study there and we found that there was a very consistent amount of time saved and energy saved when they took the water, and they used it for better hygiene, and we did an impact on children's health, and we found that children's health improved immensely. When you have proper water, the children's health improved. Because mother had more time, mother could look after them, mother could feed them when earlier it was left to like a 6-year-old boy is feeding her, his 3-year-old daughter was the sister. Now the mother is there to feed the child, to cook for the child. So overall household food, nutrition pattern changed. So there was a huge improvement of the nutrition status of the children who were there. So improves leads to, as I already mentioned, better caring, income generation. Come to my very favorite topic of street food safety, on which we have done a lot of work. This was a study which we just completed last year. It was supported by Kinle Parivartan, the Coca-Cola Group, and WHO was involved with me in planning of the study. It has got a great, we had actually developed a new method of street food assessment. I just mention it here, because as you know that, for example, Calcutta has more than 1.5 lakhs of street food vendors. And we have got only about 25 food safety officers who take samples and look into the safety of these street foods. And not only street food, they look into 5-star hotels, all food eateries, all dhabas, all food outlets. They have to look into all of them. So they just ignore the street food vendors. Let them give whatever kind of food they give. And therefore we wanted to develop a method. And method which was, you don't have to lift samples, take it to the lab, because also vendors run away. An assessment which can be done very quickly in about 15-20 minutes, immediately when you go to the vendor, an audio-visual assessment by a proper scoring method which can be graded. It is a new method that I developed with the WHO was supporting me in developing this. So with WHO support, we developed this method, presented it to 26 municipal commissioners to see what they feel about it, along with major institutions like NIL, CFTRI, DST, FSSI, everybody, BIS, everybody was there, and those were accepted by BIS, and BIS made a standard out of it, the IS 66016. So a new standard was created by BIS. So we used the BIS, which I presented to the then President Pranab Mukherjee in his last days, and that was accepted. So this standard, what we use an audiovisual method to do this testing, and what we found, street foods are going to increase. I think all of you agree. Street foods are going to increase, they are not going to decrease for so many reasons. They're tasty, immensely easily available at such a low cost. And I would say nutritionally much better than the fast foods that your children eat, much better than them. And nutritionally, if you look into it, basically they're traditional. In many ways, they use a lot of traditional food stuff, which fast food don't use. They use no preservatives. That's the most important thing. They absolutely use no. You go to, we did assessment of 5-star hotels. They use meat, which is 1.5 years old. They put preservatives, coming from Australia, Melbourne meat, things like that. 1 year old, 18 months old, tags. Go to a street food vendor, after evening, they have no place to keep. So they exchange with each other and finish it off. It's always fresh. And secondly, there is the people who want to go and buy street foods, the customers. They want their pound of flesh. If they're spending 5 rupees, that 5 rupees is very hardly earned. They must have labored the whole day to get that 5 rupees. So with that 5 rupees, you give them sara hua khana, they will beat you up, the vendor. So therefore the vendor has to give them tasty and healthy food. So that pressure is also that the vendor can't give them wrong food. Whatever is the cost, you have to give them fresh food. So all these pressures are there on the vendor to give fresh food. Plus, I think it's a very, also you don't need any training, so you can earn it. So that's very one of these places. And it takes no space. When we did this study for me, which we got, I can probably say, we got the Sama Award of FAO. We built the Calcutta model, which is one of the models which is used by all over the world now. The Calcutta model is an FAO model. When I got the award when 170 heads of states were there from Rome. We had, at that time, what we had found is that with one vendor, a vendor can give you 50, within a space of 1 feet by 1 feet, he can serve 57 people. Now think of a restaurant serving 57 people, how much space the restaurant will need. So can you replace a vendor with a restaurant? You can't. You just can't. So vendors will be there, vendors will increase as population is increasing, and you have to live with the vendors, but you have to try how to make the food safe. That's the only thing. So vendors are a very positive blessing in our life, I always say. Street food vendors are very positive blessings in our life, but we need to, whatever is needed, we need to improve them in whatever way possible. So therefore we did this with a long partnership where Kolkata Municipal Corporation was my strongest partner in doing this work. WHO was there, Kinle Parivartan supported it, and the basic was developed with WHO, the standard, so WHO was there, Bureau of Indian Standard was also there. And we had taken about 104 areas of Calcutta, and we did assessment using this method, and now subsequently gave them health education, the simple form of the vendors sticking themselves and doing it which they are following, which they are not following. And ultimately, after a year of hand-holding, we found hand-holding really helped. Immediate education did not help much. So hand-holding is one of the things, it's a recommendation for this project. But what was most important is that this is very, as I told you, it's a very simple method, doesn't take laboratory, audiovisual method, very simple, 10 to 15 minutes. And you can give star ratings, they're all stars those days. It identifies a cause, because we use 42 indicators to do that on taking, and each indicator is a type, like water, sanitation, personal hygiene. Things are there for garbage management. So you can make out where are they getting lowest scores. So you can find the cause of the problem. Is it because of poor handling? Is it because of poor water? Is it because of poor quality raw food? Is it because of reusing the oil? So we can also classify area-wise. For example, in the masjid area, we found non-vegetarian food disposal was a major problem, which other areas do not use so much of non-vegetarian food. So each area we could identify what problem they had, where they had water, where they didn't have water. So all these little problems you could identify, tell the local councillors, tell the mayor himself at that time, chaired the meeting, was still the mayor, and we could identify the problems and share it with those people. That this is the area you must give this input. This area has no water. The vendor has to walk 2 kilometers to get water. So he doesn't use food. He has one little pot of water, dips everything into that. Because he cannot walk so far. So these are little things we had done. And ultimately, it was a very nice study. We were shocked to see the results, to look into the causes. We found that the major cause of food contamination was garbage. We always thought that garbage is there. We never think of that in street food getting dirty. What is the major cause? We thought they don't buy the proper food. They don't keep it properly. They don't cover it properly. No. The major thing was garbage management. They did not manage the garbage at all. And you see, if you don't manage the garbage, the whole city gets dirty. So garbage management is now the SLWM program. We've already shared it with the Urban Development Ministry of Delhi, the results. The SLWM must take up street food vendors' garbage management. You would have to clean safe cities, for clean cities. Smart cities, this has to be one of the major inputs. As you know, smart cities taking up very strongly now. Many cities, Indira has become the smartest city. So all this, so we have to think to make a smart city. You have to think of garbage arising out of street food vendors. It is one of the major things that has to happen. Personal hygiene, hand washing. I'm not mentioning it here, but you know another thing what we found, that vendors who touch their head often, actually was one of the major problems. And we always feel that feet is dirty, head is not dirty. But we don't realize a vendor standing on the roadside, all the dust is blowing onto his head. All the dust which has possibly a lot of light soil into it or whatever into it is blowing onto his head. So whenever he touches his feet, he washes his hand. But whenever he scratches his head, he never washes his head. So head is extremely dirty. So we should all tell them that you must tell them that even hair hygiene and head hygiene is very important. Fortunately, we don't have too many lady vendors. Lady vendors will possibly make it more problematic with long hair, but they would like to wash it. But therefore, hair hygiene is also very important along with hand hygiene. Water management was a problem because I already said they had a pot of water. They used to open the top and dip into it. And after they dip into it, what they do, the thing that they're dipping, they keep it anywhere. And because the bottom is wet, it takes the dirt, it takes the whatever is there. It sticks to it, and they again dip it back into the water. So we always said, have a tap. Take your water with a tap. Have a container with a tap. That will improve. So these are little things I'll tell you, which are very important, very critical, but will improve the street food hygiene. Cleaning of kiosks was a big thing. They don't clean it properly. If they clean it with a very dirty cloth. So when you go to eat now street foods, please look into these things. So you can tell them, do this and don't do that. The third thing was, any disposable amenity, they don't throw. They wash it and use it again. They don't want it, it costs money, they give it so cheap. So this is something, if they use it, I don't like gloves. I don't like gloves at all, because gloves they will use, then they will find no customer, it's hot weather, they'll open the gloves, keep it somewhere, all the dust will come into it, then they'll reuse the gloves. So gloves is of no use, And reuse of oil is, of course, oil is a very expensive thing, so reuse of oil is a very difficult thing. I don't know how, we didn't know how to tell them, what to tell them. And food storage, of course, it's open, but that came last. I mean, they've got more than, you find we have more than 42 indicators, but they gave me the lower category. So the first category was garbage. So I think they were either the garbage was too close to them, and they put something into the garbage with the hand, they touched the garbage, they crushed the food again. So there are little things which happen. The flies come from the garbage into them. So even corporation does not clean. They should 3 times clean it, put it in a central vat, and the corporation must clean it 3 times a day. We have told them. They take it today, they take it tomorrow. So it rots there, it has infection. So it kind of spreads everywhere. People walk from in front of it. So garbage is a very, very major problem. Very, very major problem. So this is something we thought has to be done. My last slide, my conclusion is that safe and adequate water and sanitation are 2 basic necessities to keep the environment around us safe and hygienic for our well-being and health. Leave alone everything for our own health and our future generation. So what we need is to conserve water in one way we always say, and to preserve the safety of the water. Not only conserve the water, but also preserve the safety of the water, or whatever limited sources we have for a very healthy and safe future. I think say both conservation and preservation are the 2 most important things that I will say where water is concerned for improved sanitation. Sanitation is the father of all problems. So therefore we'll have to lead to sanitation, not going into that, but I think these are some of the things. My last messages to very young children here who are like my grandchildren, as a matter of fact. Dhruva, as you know, I'm 73 years old, so all of you are, I think your grandmothers and grandfathers at my age. So to a person coming 2 generations above you, I think there's something which I've learned over my long lifetime, is that water is something you need to preserve, you need to conserve for your own health, for the health of your children, and for the health of their children. So I think that's something very, very important that I feel in the world environment. The urban earth, which Dhruva said, I think this is a very, very critical issue. Thank you so much.
Well, that was indeed a terrific experience, ma'am. And well, I refuse to believe that you have at all aged. Whenever I've seen you, I've never seen you age at all. You're still young. In fact, it would not be wrong for us to say that the people sitting in the front row, the Vice Chancellor, Indira ma'am, of course, Ina ma'am, and Shantanu and Bhabados sir, they are the youngest in the group. Is it not so, students? Come on, I want a louder approval of that. But thank you so much, ma'am. The issues that she talked about at length, indeed, these are the very important sectors that we need to look after. Ma'am, you would be very happy to know, ma'am, you would be extremely happy to know that SNU had partnered with Bengal Chamber to, train the street food vendors of Decker's Lane on hygiene and safety. This was done, so maybe we can get into more projects under your guidance and support. I'm sure our students will love that. The hospitality department then had taken the extensive work of training those street food vendors in hygiene, this was prior to the pandemic, and right after that we saw how important it became. So we would love to, I'm sure all our departments, along with hospitality, all the other departments would love to come forward and help you if you have this plan under your guidance and your support. Ma'am, we would love to contribute. Thank you so much. All our HODs are here from the social science and science sector. Do any of you have any questions for ma'am? Okay, we will move ahead. We are also extremely grateful to have with us Professor Dr. Bhabatosh বিশ্বাস. As we know, he is also an eminent public health concerned person, and of course he's been in the medical profession for a pretty long time, giving us issues, talking about issues that are very pertinent to the country, and we are extremely lucky that he's part of our SNU and he's helped build the Allied Health Sciences team. Of course, Sanjay Dash, he's an essential part of that. He's been helping with the event today. all his students as well. They are terrific students. And we are extremely grateful to Bhavadu sir for being with us today. If sir, you could come up and address our students, it would mean a lot to them.
আজকে বিশ্ব পরিবেশ দিবসে এসে ইন্দিরাদির কথা শুনলাম বহুদিন বাদে। দিদিকে আমি বহুদিন চিনি, তো দেখা হয় না এখন মাঝে মাঝে। এসএনইউতে অনেকগুলো প্রোগ্রামে অ্যাটেন্ড করেছি, মাঝে মাঝে আসি। এসে যেটা ভালো লাগে, ইট ইজ ফুল অফ ইয়াং কিডস। আমি দিদির মতো প্রবীণ না হলেও কাছাকাছি, আমিও প্রায় সবার গ্র্যান্ড ফাদার মাদারের কাছাকাছি বয়স। তো ইন্দিরাদি কথা বলার পরে পাবলিক হেলথ হাইজিন সম্বন্ধে কিছু বলার চেষ্টা করা বৃথা, বাট কিছু তো বলতে হবেই। আমি হার্ড কোর ক্লিনিশিয়ান, অর্থাৎ রোগীর সার্ভিস করা, অর্থাৎ রোগ সারানোই আমার কাজ। রোগ হওয়া প্রিভেন্ট করাটা আমরা অল্প বিশেষ জানি ঠিকই, কিছু সময় দিই, বাট দ্যাট ইজ নট আওয়ার প্রায়োরিটি। এটা প্রথমে কনফেস করছি। রোগ সারিয়ে পৃথিবীকে ভালো রাখা যাবে না। বিশ্ব পরিবেশ দিবসে আমাদের যেটা প্রথম মনে রাখতে হবে, রোগ সারানোর চেষ্টা নিশ্চয়ই করতে হবে, উই ক্যান নট ইগনোর। রোগ যাতে না হয় সেই চেষ্টাটা আরো বেশি গুরুত্বপূর্ণ। তোমরা ইয়াঙ্গা যারা নিশ্চয়ই বুঝতে পেরেছো দিদির কথাতে। আমি দিদির ফ্যান বহু বছর, দেখা কম হয়, তো অবভিয়াসলি ওনার কথা শুনলে ফ্যান সবাইকে হতেই হবে। আমি দু চারটে ছোট ছোট কথা বলি, হোয়াট আই হ্যাভ সিন ওভার মাই এক্সপিরিয়েন্স অফ ক্লিনিক্যাল ওয়ার্ক। আমি বিশেষভাবে কার্ডিওথোরাসিস সার্জারি করি, তুমি জানো অনেকেই। খাঁচাটার ভেতরে যা যা আছে সেগুলো আমি কাটাছাড়া করি। তো তার বেশিরভাগই প্রিভেন্ট করি। কাটাগুলো খুব জটিল, অত লোক অত ডাক্তার বা সার্জন বা যারা কাজ করতে পারবে তেমন লোকজনের সংখ্যা কম। আমি একটা পাবলিক মিটিং একসময় বলেছিলাম, একটা মিটিং হচ্ছিল বহুকাল আগে, কনজেনিটাল হার্ট ডিজিজ ইন চিলড্রেন। বাচ্চাদের হৃদরোগ কিভাবে ট্রিট করা যায়, ছোট ছোট বাচ্চা, মেবি 1 day 2 days 1 year 1 month, whatever it is, বেশ কিছু বাচ্চা রেফার্ড হয় উইথ কমপ্লেক্স কনজেনিটাল হার্ট ডিজিজ। বাচ্চাদের হার্টে কারো ফুটো থাকে, কারো ফেলিওর থাকে। বাচ্চাদের হার্ট অপারেশন নিয়ে আমার বহু দিনের ইন্টারেস্ট আছে, অভিজ্ঞতা আছে। তাই সেই ফর্মে কথা বলতে একটি কথা বললাম, সে নাম কি ছিলেন, আমাদের দেশের প্রয়োজন কতটা। একটা সময় আপনারা জানেন মিনিস্ট্রি অফ চাইল্ড হেলথের নাম অনেকে শুনেছেন। ওইখানে ছোট বাচ্চাদের হার্ট অপারেশনের জন্য গরিব বাচ্চাদের একটা সেন্টার চালু করেছেন, 99 বা 2000। ফ্রিতে বাচ্চাদের অপারেশন করা হতো এবং হার্টের ফুটো বন্ধ করে এই অপারেশন করা হতো। সো ইট ওয়াজ অ্যাবসলিউটলি ফ্রি। হাসপাতাল সাপোর্ট করতো কস্ট, আমি এবং আমার টিম মিলে অপারেশন করতাম। একসময় দেখা গেল মেবি বছর দুয়েক পরে অনেক ক্রিটিসিজম হতো, এই ছোট ছোট বাচ্চারা করে কি করছে, ভালো মতো কিছু জানে না। সো ইন এ মিটিং একটা স্ট্যাটিস্টিক্স প্লেস করা হলো যে সেই সময়ের মধ্যে আমরা অলমোস্ট 500 বাচ্চা অপারেশন করেছি উইথ জিরো মডেলটা একটা মনে নেই। যদি যেমন বলল ফাস্ট ফুড, রাস্তার খাবার খেয়ে অনেক ভালো থাকা যায়, এটা আমরা অনেকে জানি, কিন্তু তোমাদের পক্ষে তোমাদের শোনা মানে ইট উইল স্প্রেড। যে একটা জায়গা দাঁড়িয়ে এই ভালো ভালো আধুনিক ফুড যেগুলো আমরা নামও জানি না, সেগুলো খাওয়া, জীবের টেস্ট নিশ্চয়ই হয়, এলিট হওয়া যায়, কিন্তু স্বাস্থ্যকে এলিট করা যায় না। সেখানে বার্গার খেতে হবে, দামি দামি খাবার খেতে হবে, জাস্ট লাইক দ্যাট। ছোট ছোট বাচ্চাদের সেগুলো করতে যে একটা আলোচনা সভায়, যেখানে বেশ বড় বড় লোকেরা ছিলেন, যে আই ওয়াজ আস্কড টু এক্সপ্লেন যে আমরা এরকম ফেসিলিটি কেন করতে পারছি না বহু জায়গায়, যাতে বাচ্চাদের এই দুর্ভোগ পোয়াতে না হয়। মাই আনসার ওয়াজ ইনস্ট্যান্টেনিয়াস, যে সারা দেশে সেই সময় আমরা প্রায় 1 লক্ষ হার্ট অপারেশন করতাম। যদি স্ট্যাটিস্টিক্স 3 to 8 per 1000 লাইফ বার্থস, এই স্ট্যাটিস্টিক্সে বাচ্চারা জন্মায় উইথ ডিফেক্টস, হিসেব করে দেখা যায় প্রতি বছর 1.5 থেকে 2 লক্ষ বাচ্চা এদেশে জন্মগ্রহণ করে উইথ দোজ ডিফেক্টস। অনেকগুলোর কারণে যেগুলো বললেন, হাইজিন এক্সেপ্টেন্স অনেকগুলি হয়তো তৈরি হয়। সো অ্যাট এনি পয়েন্ট অফ টাইম যেহেতু রিসিভ করতে দেখবো, এই বাচ্চাদের 75% অফ দেম ডোন্ট সি দেয়ার ফার্স্ট বার্থডে, 1 বছরের মধ্যেই মারা যায়। মেজরিটি অফ দেম আর স্যালভেজেবল। এদের যদি সময়মতো চিকিৎসা করি, এই যে 75 মারা গেল, তার মধ্যে 70 জনই বেঁচে যাবে। কথা আমাদের ফেসিলিটি নেই। একজন গণ্যমান্য ব্যক্তি বলে আরে ফ্যাসিলিটি কেন ক্রিয়েট করা হচ্ছে না, দেন আই গিভ দি স্ট্যাটিস্টিক্স। আমাদের দেশে যা হার্ট সেন্টার আছে চিকিৎসা করার, যদি যতগুলো বাচ্চা আমাদের সারা দেশে প্রতি বছর জন্মগ্রহণ করে, সেভারেল মিলিয়ন্স, সেইগুলো চিকিৎসা করতে গেলে যদি আমাকে প্রাইম মিনিস্টার বানিয়ে দেন, আমি এতগুলো হার্ট সেন্টার তৈরি করার চেষ্টা করব। সেটা তৈরি করতে যে রিসোর্স উইল বি এক্সস্টেড। অন্য হাসপাতাল করা যাবে না, স্কুল করা যাবে না, ব্রিজ তৈরি করা যাবে না, স্টেশন তৈরি, রেল করা, কিচ্ছু করা যাবে না। সবকিছু দিয়ে ওই বাচ্চা হার্ট অপারেশন করার সেন্টার তৈরি করতে হবে। দিস ইজ হিউজ এন্ড এনরমাস, সেটা আমেরিকাও করতে পারবে না। তাহলে উপায় কি? উপায় হচ্ছে গো ব্যাক টু দ্য বিগিনিং, যাতে বাচ্চাদের এইসব অসুখগুলো না হয়। সেখানে দুটো কথা এলো, যদি এনভায়রনমেন্টের সঙ্গে রিলেটেড নয়। প্রথম কথা হচ্ছে বিয়ে ঠিক হলে ঠিকুজি গোষ্ঠী দেখুন, আপত্তি কিছু নেই, কিন্তু তার একটা বেসিক হেলথ টেস্টটা করে নিতে হবে, তাতে অনেক রোগ অ্যাভয়েড করা যাবে। দ্বিতীয় হচ্ছে যে বাচ্চাদের স্বাস্থ্য সংক্রান্ত এইসব ব্যাপারগুলো ঠিক রাখতে হয়। সিম্পল হাইজিন, হাইজিন সম্বন্ধে আমাদের ক্লিনিশিয়ানদের অত ধারণা কিছু নেই। হাইজিন ভালো দরকার, এগুলো জানি, কিন্তু দিদি যেভাবে ডিটেলস বললেন তোমরা সবাই শুনেছ, যদি আমরা হাইজিন, ওয়াটার ইত্যাদি যে ডিটেলস বললেন, এইগুলো করতে পারলে ইউ ক্যান অ্যাভয়েড মোস্ট অফ ডিজিজেস। এই কথাগুলো বলার উদ্দেশ্য দিদি বলার পরে তার কারণ হচ্ছে ইউ বিং ইয়াং কিডস সিটিং ওভার হিয়ার, বিভিন্ন ছাত্রছাত্রী বিভিন্ন ডিসিপ্লিন থেকে এসছে, বাট দিস ইজ ভেরি কমন। সে বায়োটেকনোলজি হোক অথবা হার্ডকোর ইঞ্জিনিয়ারিং ছাত্রছাত্রী হোক, হাইজিন তাদের জানতে হবে, হাইজিন মেনটেন করতে হবে। তো অনেকটা ক্লিনিক্যাল লাইফ পেরিয়ে আসার পর, মেবি আই হ্যাভ বিন প্র্যাকটিস ফর মোর দ্যান 45 ইয়ার্স, তারপরে মনে হচ্ছে যেগুলো সারা জীবন যা শিখেছি এবং করেছি তার চেয়ে অনেক বেশি ইউজফুল হতো যদি এর অনেকটা সময় প্রিভেন্টিভ হেলথে ব্যয় করতাম। একটা হার্ট অপারেশন করা, একটা লাংস অপারেশন করা, এগুলো ভীষণ প্রয়োজন, এগুলো করার প্রয়োজন আছে। যতটা এনার্জি আমরা ব্যয় করি অ্যাজ এ ব্যক্তি বা অ্যাজ এ সোসাইটি বা অ্যাজ এ গভর্নমেন্ট, যতটা রিসোর্স ইউজ করা হয় ফর ক্রিয়েটিং ফেসিলিটিস ফর কিউরেটিভ ট্রিটমেন্ট, তার চেয়ে অনেক বেশি প্রয়োজন হচ্ছে প্রিভেন্টিভ হেলথে যাওয়া। সো দিস টাইম ইউ হ্যাভ টু রিয়েলাইজ, বিশ্ব পরিবেশ দিবসে এই কথাগুলো নিয়ে শুধু শুনে চলে গেলে হবে না। ইয়াং চিলড্রেন ইউ হ্যাভ টু কিপ ইন ইওর মাইন্ড। হাত ধোয়া, আমি একটা ছোট গল্প বলে শেষ করি। আমার এমসি প্রোগ্রাম আরজিগর জানেন, আরজিগর মেডিকেল কলেজে একটা বড় হার্ট সেন্টার আছে, এবং ফরচুনেটলি আই হ্যাভ দি প্রিভিলেজ টু ক্রিয়েট দ্যাট ডিপার্টমেন্ট। তাতে এমসি, ডিএনবি, নানা বিএসসি, এমএসসি, নানা কোর্স পড়ানোর এক্সপেরিয়েন্স শুরু করেছিলাম। তারই কিছু কিছু এখানে ট্রান্সলেট হচ্ছে প্যারামেডিক্যাল অ্যালাইড সায়েন্সে। এমসি পড়তে যারা আসে, দে আর অল পোস্ট এমএস ক্যান্ডিডেটস। আমার কাছে যে ছাত্ররা আসে তারা ধেড়ে ছাত্র, আমি তাদের বলি, দে কাম অ্যাট দি এজ অফ 35+। এমবিবিএস হলো, এমএস হলো, এক্সপিরিয়েন্স হলো, তারপরে পড়তে যখন আসছে 35+। এবার তাদের 3 বছর পড়তে হবে, 5 বছর কাজ করতে হবে, ম্যাচিউর হয়ে আয় করতে তাদের 45-50 বছর বয়স হবে। দে আর ওভারঅল তারা বহু পরীক্ষা দিয়ে আসে, দে আর আপার ক্লাস স্টুডেন্টস। একটি ছাত্র ছিল আমার, তার সঙ্গে আমার প্রতিদিনকার যে রিলেশন সেটা বলছি, ফিল ইন্টারেস্টেড। আমার হার্ট সার্জারি ডিপার্টমেন্টে একটা দিন ফিক্স করা ছিল, ফ্রাইডে আফটারনুন। আমার ডিপার্টমেন্টের হেড টু টেল মানে সুইপার পর্যন্ত বসিয়ে লাঞ্চ আর একটা প্রোগ্রাম হতো। দ্যাট ওয়াজ সাপোর্টেড বাই জে জনসন। ওরা লাঞ্চ প্যাকেজ সাপ্লাই দিত, এবং প্রতি সপ্তাহে শুক্রবার এই প্রোগ্রামটা হতো। ইট ওয়াজ ম্যান্ডেটরি দ্যাট এভরিবডি শুড কাম। আমার প্রফেসর অফ কার্ডিয়াক সার্জারি, অ্যাসিস্ট্যান্ট প্রফেসর থেকে শুরু করে ডিপার্টমেন্টের জিডিএস সুইপার পর্যন্ত আসতো। ইট ওয়াজ ম্যান্ডেটরি, এক্সেপ্টিং ওয়ান অফ মাই স্টুডেন্টস, এখন ভালো সার্জারি করে, আমি এমসি করতে এসছে, হি ইউজ টু রিফিউজ টু অ্যাটেন্ড দি ক্লাস। তাকে ডাকলাম, না আমি আপনার থেকে হার্ট সার্জারি শিখতে এসেছি, হাত ধোয়া শিখতে আসিনি। সেই ক্লাসে লাঞ্চন শেখানো হতো হাউ টু ওয়াশ ইউর হ্যান্ডস। আমরা এখন তো নানা জায়গায় দেখি পোস্টার দেওয়া থাকে, হ্যান্ড ওয়াশিং টেকনিক লেখা থাকে। সার্জারির ছাত্র যারা, তাদের হ্যান্ড ওয়াশিং শেখানো হয়, কিভাবে হাত ধুতে হবে। মোস্টলি ইফ ইউ ওয়ার্ক ইন সুপারস্টিটিউড এরিয়াস, ব্রেন সার্জারি, হার্ট সার্জারি, নি রিপ্লেসমেন্ট, সেগুলোতে একটা ইনফেকশন হওয়ার সবই গেল। তা স্পেশালি আমরা ছাত্রছাত্রীদের হ্যান্ড ওয়াশ শেখাই, এবং আই ওয়াজ লিটল বিট অ্যাগ্রেসিভ। আমার ডিপার্টমেন্টে প্রতি সপ্তাহে একটা দিন হাফ ডে হ্যান্ড ওয়াশিং শেখানো হতো, এবং ধরে নেওয়া হতো কেউ এগুলো পারমানেন্টলি শেখে না, 2 দিন বাদে আবার ভুল করবে। কিভাবে হাত ধুতে হবে, কতক্ষণ ধুতে হবে, কি মেটেরিয়াল ইউজ করে কিভাবে ক্লাস করতে হবে, সো দ্যাট কিপ ইউর হ্যান্ডস ক্লিন, যেমন দিদি বললে মাথা চুলকে রক্তপাত দেয়, তো এটা তো আমি এত লক্ষ্য করিনি, কিন্তু দিস আর ভেরি স্মল ইস্যুস। সো দ্যাট ওয়াজ ভেরি অ্যাডামেন্ট। হিজ স্টেটমেন্ট ওয়াজ, আমি আপনার কাছে অনেক কষ্ট করে এসেছি হার্ট অপারেশন শিখতে, হাত ধোয়া শিখতে আসিনি, ওটা আমি আপনাকে শেখাতে পারবো। তারপরে I had to take lot of trouble to manage him. Currently he is one of the very very high quality surgeons. দেখা হলেই বলে, স্যার আমি হাত ধুয়ে রয়েছি। This is what is the importance of hygiene. Hygiene, water, sanitation, open defecation বন্ধ করা ইত্যাদি যা দিদি বললেন, আমি বলবো you are very very fortunate to listen to her this afternoon. আমি তোমাদের সবার শুভেচ্ছা কামনা করবো বিশ্ব পরিবেশ দিবসে, তোমরা ভালো ভালো জিনিস শিখে যাও এবং কিপ ইয়োরসেলফ হেলদি এবং কিপ ইয়োর সোসাইটি হেলদি। নিজেকে ভালো রাখা খুব স্বার্থপরতা, ইউ ডু ইট, বাট ইউ হ্যাভ টু লুক বিয়ন্ড। পাশের লোকটা ভালো থাকবে, সোসাইটি ভালো থাকবে, এবং ইউ উইল ক্রিয়েট অ্যান এনভায়রনমেন্ট ইন দিস আর্থ যেখানে ইউর নেক্সট জেনারেশন উইল ভেরি সেফ। থ্যাংক ইউ।
Thank you so much. Shruti, there are certain issues that are so basic, we tend to overlook them. You know, we are not mindful. Sir, eto sundor kore bollen. Thank you so much for those wonderful words. Nijer bhalo thakata is very important. Taholei amra samajke bhalo rakhte parbo. Thank you so much, sir. We have among us now somebody who has been talking about, writing about issues that are so crucial. In publications, in journals, especially in the Telegraph. We've all grown up, basically. Students, can we have a little bit of silence? There is some issues with this microphone. Can we get somebody? Can you put this outside? Hello, am I audible? Yes. We have somebody who's been talking about issues. We've grown up, you know, reading his articles on how to write about issues that are related to the environment in the Telegraph, definitely. Mr. Joyanta Basho, can we have a wide round of applause for him, please? Thank you so much, sir, for being here today. He's a specialized environment and climate correspondent and columnist associated with the Telegraph. He's also contributed to very nationally and internationally recognized journals. He's a regular audiovisual and media, talks about media-related issues. Apart from covering climate change issues nationally and internationally, he's a regular international climate change meetings. He has led a successful number of successful landmark environmental campaigns, and he's also now he's shifted his role. He's also teaching students at the University of Calcutta. We have so much to learn from him, but the issues that he brings about today also creates so many hashtags in FB, and students, you've surely seen a lot of hashtags that he generates through his copies today. That is a relatable factor for you, isn't it? Thank you so much, sir, for being here today. I would request the Vice Chancellor to please come up and felicitate Mr. Basu for us. Sir, you can please come up. Students of Finance Department of Mass Communication and also a student of Allied Health Sciences could please come up and help, sir.
Thank you, Professor Chatterjee. It's such a privilege to be here and be part of this extremely, I would say, important discourse. I think in today's world, nothing more important is to talk about environment. Because it's no more, I say it's no more environment, it's all about existence. Let's forget about environmental values, talk about the existential values, because our existence literally is at stake. And it's such a privilege to be here in this August gathering and kind of trying to share a few of my thoughts and comments and whatever little experiences I have had over the last decade or so, chasing climate change negotiation globally and also nationally and kind of regionally. And it's such also a role reversal for me. Normally I am habituated to felicitate Professor Chatterjee, and this time I got felicitated by him. So thank you, Professor Chatterjee, for being such an honor. So let me go straight down to the discussion. Chasing climate change negotiation from Copenhagen to Glasgow. Copenhagen, you all know, was a kind of a game changer. Before Copenhagen Climate Summit in 2009, I would say that even 5% of the global population knew about climate change, negotiation and all. Copenhagen changed it all. So with all those presidents, prime ministers, all the head of the states, about 200 of them assembling in Copenhagen and started talking about climate change. So I had the opportunity and being fortunate being part of the Copenhagen negotiation to start with, and really being fortunate over the last decade or so, more than a decade, I have been part of each and every global summit on climate summit. There are others as well, where I could see from the front that what exactly is happening, and I will try to share a few of my views and pointers. Also pushing that this needs to be taken much more seriously at our academic and other discourses, because here lies the future of this, not only the world, future of academics, future of opportunities, future of livelihoods and everything. Very interesting photograph. This central photograph, don't wait until it's too late, is a photograph from, I think, Glasgow. You know the Greta Thunberg, the Swedish girl, 18, 19 years, who completely turned the way the global movement is happening now. This Friday for Future is now raging towards Europe. And I saw in Glasgow, in Queen's Park, how thousands, why should I say thousands, I think almost 1 lakh people assembled, and when they marched, they have been showcasing posters, and this one, don't wait until it's too late. It really something which was right at the front. And Greta Thunberg famously said, what has been happening a few kilometers away within the four walls of climate summit is nothing but blah, blah, blah. These political leaders have been talking all about blah, blah, blahs over the decade, and at the same time the world is moving towards extinction. So that was that. And right side, if you look at the top, that's right corner top, is a photograph from our own Sundarbans. I don't know how many of you have been there. Whenever I talk about climate change anywhere in the world, I think Sundarban should come in the first paragraph. Not only because I love Sundarban too much, but also for the fact it is one of the most vulnerable climate hotbed in the world right now. And that is a photograph from Moushoni Island. Moushoni is here. We traveled a lot, we walked a lot. And this Moushoni Island at the lap of Bay of Bengal. And the storm was so high, it completely uprooted that area. You could see only few uprooted trees. Even houses and everything is completely destroyed. So it's one of the most vulnerable areas. People there lost their houses 3 times in a year or 1 year and a half. Fine. Let's start in a very specific manner. Where does the world stand on climate change right now? You all know, perhaps you all know, that from last August to this April, the Ar6 report, Assessment Report 6, you know that even United Nations Framework Convention of Climate Change, under that there is a body called IPCC, Intergovernmental Panel for Climate Change, which have about 3,000 scientists from all over the world. They come up with a report every few years. That report is meant for the politicians. This report, scientists and others and activists and journalists and everybody use it, but it's primarily meant for the politicians to give them direction that how they should act in future. And this IPCC report is considered as the benchmark. And that report, the latest report, Ar6 report, there are 3 working groups in Ar6, working group 1, 2 and 3. And now the assimilated report will come up very shortly. But the 3 reports are very clear. First of all of them have painted a very dark future. Some of them is called being code red for humanity. That's UN is saying, not an activist is saying, UN is saying code red for humanity. Another saying dire consequences are in the offering. And the final one is saying that these are consequences due to inaction of the world at large. So those are the kind of languages being used by UN. And the report is showing that world is on course to a 3 to 5 degree temperature rise over the 19th century benchmark because of this 4 carbon emission, unless we start to reduce the emission right now. I might not have been written here, but I think I should tell that. Now the deadline has been fixed. It is no more about the next decade. It's no more about the next generation. It's no more even for the next year. They are saying 2025, if we do not start before 2025, the world will be in a difficult place to live from coming decades. So the target has been set. We are right now in 2022, 6 June 2022. By 2024 December, we need to start acting on ground. Now, if you want to start acting on ground, even on 31st December 2024, then you need to plan right now. Yesterday, we had a program in Kolkata Press Club where Kolkata's Honorable Mayor and Minister, Mr. Hakim was there for 3 hours. There are many experts. Murushita was there where we missed out for the Chatterjee in that program. We also discussed that for City of Kolkata. And when I say Kolkata, I'm not saying the Kolkata Corporation. In the global benchmark, Kolkata means the greater Kolkata metropolitan area, which includes all these places where right now we are standing. So we need to come up with a plan. So that's where we are. And even if we do something, start doing, still it's very unlikely that we will be able to limit it within 1.5 degree. And 1.5 degree will be breached by another decade. So by 2030, 2040, 1.5 degree will be breached. And if 1.5 degree is breached, there will be several consequences. Now, large part of the population will be under stress. Carbon dioxide, which during the early COVID gone down a bit, has again showing the tendency of going up. So this is not a good news. And the bad news, even bad news is, the finance is not in the offering. All of this need money, but the developed countries are not coming up with the money the way they should have been. Yesterday morning, somebody was saying that the money investing for the armaments has not decreased during COVID. But when you say that we need money for climate change action, they're saying, no money out there. So that's the kind of mindset they're going up. Now, what has brought the world to current situation? I'm trying to, for the next half an hour or so, I'll be trying to talk about the global negotiation. I think that's very important. Normally, in Kolkata, in West Bengal, we not really talk about negotiation a bit, but that's very important because that completely aligns with the future of all of us. So, what has brought the world to current situation? This is the fundamental. I call it the theory of the story of sky versus skyline. If you look at the sky, be it in Newtown or New York or New Jersey or anywhere, depending on the season, more or less the sky color is same. You pan the camera out there, you find the similar kind of sky color. You can't really differentiate from this photograph which sky is from Newtown and which one is from the New Jersey and which one from the New York. You can't. But the moment you pan down the camera from the sky to skyline, you will find the differences. You will find differences. Bangladesh, Bihar, Malaysia, everywhere you find a different kind of skyline. Somewhere the skyline reflects affluence, somewhere the skyline reflects absolute poverty. So the skyline indicates the so-called quote-unquote development that we are going through. And there's the question that why equity is going for a toss. That we need to understand, and I think would like to push on. Look at this. This is a data from the Government of India's negotiation package. It's not a classified data, but it's not an open access data as well. I have taken it from because of the fact that we cover climate change a lot. We've been very closely watching what's happening around. We get hold of this data. So this is the data from the Government of India's negotiation document. This data is updated till 2009. Now they are updating it till 2020. We'll get it later. Look at the USA legitimate share and what is the actual share. USA's legitimate share of sky. Here I must explain a minute what we mean by this legitimate share. See, if this world had 8 billion people, and if the sky has certain amount of 3,000 gigaton of space to kind of absorb the emission that all of us are doing, then individually, this 3,000 gigaton divided by this 8 billion is the individual my share of the sky. Now the my share of the sky can be multiplied with the country population to the country share of the sky. Now look at the country share. Legitimate share of USA is 4.6%. USA has occupied 24%. It means US has hijacked 24% of the sky which other countries deserve. On the other hand, if we look at India, India's legitimate share is 17% and we hardly got 2.6%. So whatever, if we now turn this to so-called quote-unquote development, the physical development, then that is the result. So it is very clearly how these Annex 1 countries, how these so-called developed countries have become developed at the expense of us. So that is the reason why this difference in the skyline. The skyline difference is not the fault of us, but the fault of these big countries, how they're exploited. We might have some faults because we couldn't use it the way we should have been, but that's the story is. Now, how threatening is the current situation? Very quickly. Several scientific reports. Ar6 I have already mentioned. WMO, World Meteorological Department, their production report, German Watch, have clearly showing that the world has been progressing towards an extremely heated, almost unbearable world. It is no more a fantasy. It's no more a fantasy, it's all about real. So that's where we are running on. And extreme events like huge rainfall are increasing rapidly. Sea level is rising. West Bengal is one of the most affected areas. And I was just looking at there's an interactive map Professor Chatterjee being provided with this year's report. That's very interesting. That if you have that map and you analyze that map, I did it and I also shared it with Purushita a lot, we discussed a lot. If you have if you put Newtown, and if you have get a let long, you have the entire Newtown data projected till 2100. How much temperature will be rising, under what scenario? There are 4 scenarios, which is the extremely, I would say, unlike scenario that there will be no temperature being controlled within 1.5 degree. There's a scenario for 2 degree. There's a scenario for 2.6 and there's a scenario above that. So there are various scenarios being considered. The worst possible scenario, Kolkata's temperature. This year we are talking about the heat stress and heat wave and likewise in not only in Kolkata but also in the northern part of the country. But by 2060, 2070, when 30-40 years from now, in average each of the South Bengal cities will have around 50 degrees centigrade. So today's Rajasthan may be tomorrow's Kolkata. And in fact, if you look at the data at a larger level, the national level or South Asian level, I cross-checked how the Karachi is, Sri Lanka is and all that. I find that Delhi, which is now considered not considered it is, the political capital of the country is going to be the heat capital of the country. Mumbai, which is the financial capital of the country, will turn into the rainfall capital of the country. And Kolkata, which is the cultural capital of the country, no doubt will turn into the cyclone capital of the country. Because entire fulcrum of cyclones in the Bay of Bengal has been shifting from Andhra Pradesh, Odisha coast to Odisha, West Bengal, Sundarban coast. These are all documented data. What I am saying, I have not researched it. It's all being documented, I am just reproducing the documentation. Now, problem is that despite everything, the money is not flowing. The economic cost of climate impact in India are already being immense. Cyclone Amphan in 2020 affected 13 million people, cost about $13 billion after its landfall. And so on and so forth. You can go on talking about the data. There are so many data. No doubt that where does we stand right now. And grossly, when I put India at the global benchmark, that's where we are coming to. Despite one of the countries in the world, which is not really an affluent country, we are maybe an emerging economy at best. We are talking about $5 trillion economy and other things, but as of now, we are an emerging economy at the best. In 2018 data, when we are considering fatalities for climate change, India topped the world. And when you consider the GDP loss, India was second. And if you look at the 1999 to 2018, you can see third in both sectors. So, third is not the point. The point being third in a big country like this, the gross impact on the economy, the gross impact of the livelihoods is immense. So, what we are doing about it? And the impacts we can see on ground, be it Kerala, be it Uttarakhand, Kashmir, Chennai, Mumbai, Kolkata we had Amphan, but we may be having even stronger ones. Now I am coming to the core part of my deliberation and really feel that that needs to be taken into account. What are the politicians doing to save the greatest ever threat for global existence? I really call it the greatest ever threat. If you look at the history of it, Kyoto Protocol has promised. Kyoto in 1990s, the first global treaty considering all countries, said that the developed countries will reduce 5.1% of their gross emission by around 2010, 2012. Nothing to be done by the smaller countries. But I really feel that big countries really didn't understand the implication of 5.1% decrease at that point of time. When they actually were pushed to do that, they could understand the impact of that reduction can be. And so from Copenhagen, in Copenhagen, I should share a very small story with all of you. In Copenhagen, the last day, the Copenhagen, as I said, was the first global conference I covered. Many of us have covered from India, about 10, 15 of us. And globally, there are about 3,000 journalists all over. And the last night, when the final plenary meeting was going on, it was dragging on and on. And so most journalists left the conference hall at Bella Center, hugely cold, -3 outside, and so people left. And you know, in Copenhagen, the evening, the night starts at 3:30 at that point in time in November, December. So most of them left. They will come back tomorrow morning and will do whatever. Suddenly I have a gut feeling that something historic is going to happen. So I stayed back. I and a few of my journalist friends, we stayed back. And really we could see the history making in front of us. There was a meeting of 17 hours long meeting. Continued meeting for 17 hours with breaks, 2 or 3 breaks for 10-15 minutes. That was only being bettered last year when we have a 43 hours meeting. Now this 17 hours meeting, when USA got up and saying, Hillary Clinton was there first and then others, that we are offering $100 million to the developing countries from 2020 and $10 million every year from now. Then, and America thought that when America is saying $100 million, and the smaller countries will just jump in to take that money, and likewise. And unfortunately, India joined hand with America, and other countries also joined hand. It happened like that. Now, when they offered it, the smaller countries like Grenada, Maldives, I could still see that Maldives Prime Minister getting up and saying, "Sir, you are offering a bribe to us. We are happy to accept the bribe. No problem about that. Just tell me in which bank should I keep the money, because all our banks are drowning." So that one line completely transformed the entire setup, and everybody stood up and started shouting that we are not party to the decision. So Copenhagen turned to a failure, and UN had to accept that it's a failure. So that was Copenhagen. And then from Copenhagen onwards, this dragging in and on, going on, Cancun, Durban, Doha, Warsaw, so on and so forth. I won't say everything was wrong. I won't say everything was negative. I won't say everything failed. One good thing about this global conference, UN conference, is this. You have 200 countries. Unless 200 countries agree to something, nothing is moved. Nothing is allowed. There's no voting. It can't be 101 by 99. It has to be 200-0. So even single Bolivia, single Maldives, single Grenada stood up and saying, "I'm not agreeing." The agreement will not go into effect. So the minus point is, it slows down the process. The plus point is, once it is accepted, it is accepted. So that is the better part of it, and that continued. And overall, I can say, till Glasgow 2021, politics have owned what the people need. Now, if we go to the very quickly to the UNFCCC principles, it is very important because an Indian actually played a very key role in making this principle. Chandrasekhar Dasgupta, who's a very well-known bureaucrat, diplomat. Dr. Dasgupta was one of the pioneers of UNFCCC and framed that. It's a common but differentiated responsibility. All the countries have responsibilities. There are common responsibilities, but there are differentiated ones. And the specific needs and special circumstances need to be recognized. There has to be precautionary measures, promote sustainable development. So all these are in the UNFCCC. And very quickly, if you look, there are series of conferences happening. In fact, the day I'm talking to you is the Stockholm 50 is going on. You know, 1972, 5th June to 15th June, the Stockholm Environment Conference was held, which is the first of its kind environment conference globally. Our own Prime Minister at that point of time, Indira Gandhi, kind of joined that conference and very famously linked poverty with environment. He said, you need to eradicate poverty to have environment. That is a different question, a much debated question. I'm not going to that at this point of time. But what I'm saying, that in this 50 years, a lot of discussions are taking place. Professor Salimul Haque, who is one of the foremost scientists globally now recognized on climate change, also being a professor of independent university in Bangladesh, and also he's also a British citizen as well, and ICAT, International Council of Climate Change, is the director, a very prominent force in the least developed countries. I took an interview of him just day before yesterday, and he was telling me the scientists have come up with a report on Stockholm 50, saying whatever the countries committed over the last 50 years in those discussions, hardly 10% were actually implemented. That's official. So that's the kind of output of this discussion. That's why the young generation call these discussions blah, blah, blah. And I have complete support for them. It has been a blah, blah, blah to a large extent. So, very quickly, Copenhagen was not a multilateral outcome. I said it was kind of failed approval. Now in Cancun is an interesting example. Cancun is actually US's Thailand. People go over to Cancun to have a lovely holiday. There are a series of 7-star hotels in a beautiful sea beach. And they put up that, you can see in the right top, hope with a question mark. So hope, which completely kind of went out of the window in Copenhagen, came back maybe with a question mark in Cancun, because both the developed countries understood and developing countries understood, underdeveloped countries understood that we can have bickerings, but there is no point in going out of the discussion. Unless we continue discussing, we will not be reaching anywhere. So that happened. Now I'm coming to a very important part, the Paris Agreement. I would say a landmark agreement in global climate negotiation. First time, this agreement, all the countries, be it USA, be it Bangladesh, be it India, be it anybody, all committed to cutting of emission in this world. Maybe the scale is different, but they will all cut to it. And here all the countries made public commitment. They showed their own intention, how much emission will be cut. Their objective to put it within 2 degrees centigrade. The zero carbon economy was in offering. So these are so on and so forth went on. It's a baby step. It's a baby step towards survival, but there's a step have to be accepted. Too many compromises, key decisions left for future. That also happened in Paris. It's not that everything was hunky-dory. There are agreements, there are few key actions being taken, few left out. Basically, the text weakens the obligation of developed countries. That was a dragging going on and on. So it weakens the obligation of developed countries. And I would here point out a very important thing, which is called loss and damage. When we talk about climate change, there are two terms we used to talk previously. One is adaptation, one is mitigation. Mitigation, maybe this building is considered climatically not secure, perhaps. Then you may think about completely demolishing the building and coming with a new building which is climate secure. So that mitigation for you. And if you say, no, I don't have the money to do that, so we will do certain steps to enhance security. So that's adaptation. But now the world is talking about, fine, these are all future. But what will happen to that poor people in Ghodamara who has suffered without any fault of his or her? What will happen to that family in Sagar or that family in Maldives who has suffered without any fault of them? So this is all about loss and damage, climate liability to be put on. That climate liability factor came some years back, but it get a momentum in Paris, some kind of a momentum, not much, but it will mention. Now in Madrid, after Paris, a lot of things happened. One bad thing happened. After Paris, the next year was in Marrakesh. Now, just when Marrakesh was happening, everybody thought in US election Hillary Clinton was going to win. And Hillary Clinton was more or less a pro-climate change person. But Donald Trump came from nowhere and won the election. That had completely transformed the geopolitics, the geopolitics of global climate negotiation. So Donald Trump said, I don't believe in this. These are all false things. We are not going to accept it. We will be coming out of the whole agreement. So that completely changed the whole perception. And then again, finally, world waited for Donald Trump to lose. The world had to wait for him to lose for a few years. He lost finally. And then the negotiation for USA came back on track. Joe Biden saying, no, we are back. So in Madrid, climate negotiation managed to stitch at highly compromised and weak agreements, so not still the same thing going on, and then to Glasgow. Not only leading to Glasgow, now leading to Negan Future. These are, I think a lot of students out here maybe have interest and maybe working on this, some of these in future. I request you to take a note of it. These are right now are the pointers of global negotiation on climate change. Impact. Impact is huge, we need to reduce it. Emission cut. Climate finance will be key. Loss and damage. Peaking year. When we will peak? Which country will peak and go down? Rule book. How we will implement it? Here I share a small thought of mine. I wrote it in op-ed in Ananda Bajar a couple of days back. Also spoke in few platforms in the last 2-3 days. I think it's an extraordinary situation. রবীন্দ্রনাথ যেমন বলেছিলেন যে বিশেষ সময় নতুন অর্ঘ্য নিতে হয়. Just like that, we need to come up with something innovative to save this world. Now in India, something called Green Tribunal, a Green Court has been formed. Now that's a very good example. Even globally, I know experts take cognizance of that and actually kind of say that this is the model we should follow in our own country. But now we feel that only the Green Court will not do. Because court can only do what the administration from below push it to do. So what we need? So according to me, in this extraordinary situation, just like we have CRPC, Criminal Proceedings Code, you have laws in the country, but you know that crime management is very important to sustain the society. So you have come up with something specific, CRPC, Criminal Proceedings Code. And if I have any complaint against somebody, somebody has complaint, he or she can jolly well go to a police station and file a complaint, right or wrong, that the police will decide, but you can't do that under the procedure. My point is that time is up when we have something called CLPC. We should have climate proceedings code. We should have some environment climate police stations in this country, in this state at least, to start with. And where people can go and kind of say that this guy is taking sand mining, this guy is cutting trees, this guy is filling up the rivers. 40% of our rivers in the country are now polluted. Topsoil is going for an agricultural country. We are committing suicide. So if somebody who doesn't want to be part of the suicide should have the right to go to the police and saying, I don't want to commit suicide, please stop them from doing it. So that's a thing, it should go like that. So anyway, technology transfer, people's voice becoming louder, city voice becoming louder. This is very important thing, the city voice. Again, sharing a very small story that will make the thing interesting. Also in Copenhagen, when the last day Barack Obama's and all those were coming on. Now this city like Copenhagen is not really habituated to see big assemble of people. They are habituated in hundreds, not in thousands. So when thousands and thousands suddenly assembled, they got completely part-rexed. And then they ordered that all the NGOs, there are about 10,000 NGO people who are there, should be taken out. Only 5 to 10% of the NGOs should be allowed in last 3 days, and rest have to leave the conference hall. Now all the mayors of, many mayors of world across, many important cities like New York, London and likewise, were part of the conference as NGOs. Some NGOs have taken them there. They are all thrown out to accommodate Barack Obama's and Manmohan Singh's and likewise. So they got extremely furious. They said that when a storm comes and hits us, I as a mayor is the first person who have to do something to stop it. And you guys are throwing me out of the whole discussion. So the next year in Bonn, they came up with the first conference of mayors, mayors and climate change. I was very fortunate to be part of that as well. And there they said that we need to be allowed to talk and allowed to do. And now, I'm very happy to share with you, every year, 2 days are allotted to the conference where only the mayors speak, all the country leaders here. So that's the kind of changeover has happened. So that happened here. Now, market mechanism. You trade carbon trade. It's a failure in first place. Now they are trying new models. Technology transfer. And now the post-COVID implication. Very important. And now I should add to it the Ukraine war. The Ukraine war and the COVID are really pushing the things again to a difficult point. Now, Glasgow. I'm coming into it. Glasgow. What happened in Glasgow? Again, a global compromise. Now, suddenly, these big countries are so apt and so I think they're so skillful to come up with new jargons every time. Until you understand the jargons, the conference is over. The conference is for 2 weeks. They came up with something called net zero. Net zero emission. It means that whatever you emit, you take that. It sounds fine, but what are the target dates? US has said, my target date is 2050. 2050 will be net zero. UK said, fine, we will be also 2050. China said 2060. India said 2070. I asked the Indian minister at the sidelines, because we were few of them and so we used to have regularly meet each other. Minister was also used to meet us. I said, what's the point in 2070? Who will be there to execute and see? The world will be there to take it 2070. When the global report is saying that 2025 will start to add. 2070. She said, no. You guys go and tell America to make it 2030, I'll make it 2040. And it means that you can do it in 2050. Well, yes, we can, if America does it 2030. So it's all about geopolitics. So it's all about trading. Salim al-Haq saying yesterday that the time is up when the new generation should think about, first think of as a global citizen and then a national citizen. So that's, because it's something, when a war was happening in Iran, there was a black rain in Kashmir. You cannot stop the environmental impacts to be limited with the country, with the borderline of the politics. Anyway, so that the net zero concept came up globally. no definite time-bound commitment to finance, though some money is coming, but still it's not enough. The good thing is, loss and damage came back very strongly in the deliberation. In fact, I request Professor Chatterjee to lead it, because we need leaders like him that now this is the year when globally UN has said that we are encouraging formal discourse and dialogue on loss and damage. And once that has been done throughout the year, we are going to have the next conference in Egypt from next November. And Egypt being a developing, or should I say, emerging economy kind of country, it is expected that Egypt outcome will be stronger. So it is now felt they will plan something more constructive in Egypt to come up with a loss and damage plan. So this discourse on loss and damage, this discourse on climate change is very important. I think institute like this can actually take a lead role to push that. And I think UNFCCC will be very, very happy, as far as my understanding goes, to be part of this kind of exercise. So I really will request him, we can talk it further, that can we take it more strongly forward? Then there will be a more tangible outcome to this whole discourse. Anyway, coming back, no definite time-bound commitment. As I said, loss and damage came back. Paris will be completed. Last part is very important, the coal phase. Now I really would like to talk a couple of minutes on that. The big countries were saying, cut out coal. Cut out coal. There will be coal has to be out. And there are many civil society people who were supporting it. India and China said, no, we are not in a position to phase out coal. They could come up with a word like phase down. So we'll phase down coal. It means that we'll reduce it but not completely cut it down. Here I will many kind of contradict and criticize government of India, but here I am one of the strongest critics of government of India on climate change. I still remember when talking about climate change and India's policy, I go back to Jairam Ramesh comment. Jairam Ramesh, a very good friend, after one of the conferences, he came to Kolkata, and whenever he comes to Kolkata, he told me that, Jairam, here, come on and have a chat. So that time he was very busy, so we decided to, I said that I'll accompany you to the airport. So he was somewhere, so we were going to the airport, and I was taking an interview of him as well. So I asked him that, what is India's policy on climate change? He said, Janta, you know Makali? What do you mean Makali? As Makali has four hands, our climate policy is like that. We have USA in one hand, China in one hand, the poor countries in one hand, and others in the other hand. So India is always having this kind of Makali policy and kind of a compromise. And that's a very, very, I would say, India actually has the power to be the global leader in climate negotiation. But they always push back and they always react rather than proact. So that's what it is. So coal phase, but here I say, the point I'm coming back, the coal is not the only issue. What about oil? What about natural gas? Why UK is allowing, not saying a single word about natural gas? Because they have a plan to dig out natural gas from sea. They are only saying India is not allowing us to do the coal thing. But what about natural gas? What about the other fossil fuels? So if we have to consider the fossil fuels, we have to consider the whole hog. And when this Devcha Pachami thing, because it's a very contentious issue now, I really don't want to talk a lot length on that, but very quickly, when the Devcha Pachami thing is happening in West Bengal or planning to be happening, I think we have to see it objectively. Yes, climate change, carbon is very important, but I think more important to understand, even before Devcha Pachami, if you go to that area, that entire area being affected by the coal being digged out, and this whole things have been going on. So Devcha Pachami to me is, forget about environment, it's not even a kind of an economically viable option, because the amount of basalt salt there are, very difficult to do that project. And now no international fund will be coming to you. Bangladesh, even after all this hue and cry of Rampal, as because Rampal is their Prime Minister's pet project, they could not abandon it. But they abandoned 11 coal projects last 1.5 years. Not because of environment, but because they are not getting any money from international donors. So Devcha Pachami is going to hit the same chord if not being seen properly. Now, that's what what happened in Glasgow. Already I spoke about this. Very quickly, I'll end up with this, with 5 minutes or so, is about the Kolkata. I think this is very important. When I say Kolkata, I'm not restricting myself to Kolkata Municipal Corporation. I am talking about the Kolkata metropolitan area. This area is very much part of that. And this Kolkata, I'm just quoting from the latest report. I'm not adding anything to it. It's been said that Kolkata is an increasing risk. Beyond 2040, climate change would lead to a numerous risks in occurrence of multiple climate hazards. Loss of green cover, we really have a very poor green cover, poorest among all the metro cities, and even that has been impacted a lot during the last Amphan and other cyclones. Inadequate resilience plan. Mayor was saying yesterday that we were going to have some plan, but as of now, we don't have adequate resilience plan to counter climate change. Disaster mortality. Kolkata is one of the highest possibly in the world at this point of time. Drought risk, flooding, you name it and we have it. But everything is not negative. There's storm surge, cyclone rise. As I said, cyclone 3 to 5 cyclone are on the rise. Sea level rise. Sundarban sea level rise is about 6 millimeter per year now, is double, almost double to global average. Highest in the country. And we are hardly 100 kilometers away from Sundarban. So naturally our risk is very high. There is no two ways about it. So sea level rise, inundation, greenhouse gas. Kolkata has huge amount of greenhouse gas. Highest temperature rise. The report, Ar6 report saying in last 60 years, 1958 to 2018, Kolkata metropolitan area is the area where the temperature rise was 2.6 degree, highest in the world, above Tehran, above Moscow. So that's where we are. There are rainfalls and other issues. I'll just end up saying a couple of things out here. Everything is not bad. Kolkata at the same time is an ecologically subsidized city. I remember here Professor Dhrupajyoti Ghosh, perhaps many of you know him. He used to say this, that Kolkata is an ecologically subsidized city. We are fortunate enough to have a river like Ganga flowing in the western part. We are fortunate to have, at that point of view at least, to have quality groundwater below. We are fortunate to have an area like this Kolkata wetlands just beside you, which is the natural kidney of the city. Any other country taking 910 million liters of water every day need to spend about thousands of crores to do that. We get it free. Nature does it free for us. So we are an ecologically subsidized city. But the unfortunate part of the thing is that we are throwing away all these subsidies out of the window. So we have to acknowledge our risk. We have to understand our strength and come up with something positive. Look at the transport model. This has been Kolkata's transport model being accepted or acknowledged as a global model in the last report. They're saying it is one of the good models, good practices in other cities. So maybe for the poverty, but the way 50 of us get into a bus, an auto being shared by 4 or 5, the way public transport is being shared, not by design perhaps, but by default perhaps, but still we do it. That's a global example. So we need to look at all these kind of things and look at Kolkata can go up to 50 degrees centigrade, 150 days of heat wave and likewise. So that's where I'm just coming to here. I end up with this story of this small little bird whom I met many years back in Sundarban. And I keep on saying that this image haunts me. This is hardly 100 kilometers from us. The house you can see, the burnt house, is right on the lap of the river. Originally, the bank was beyond it. But during Ayla, the bank went on, completely washed away. So they created a new bank, mud bank inside. But there are about 20 families like this who are so poor that they didn't have the money to do something inside the bank. So they stayed back wherever they were. And when there is high, this is the low tide picture. When there is high tide, 50% of those houses are underwater. Every day, twice in a day. Just imagine somebody 100 kilometers from us, 50% of the house underwater. And even the low tide, it is the lowest of the low tide. When the low tide is even a bit more, they have to swim across from their house to the main road. So this is a small girl who was running through, and I met her and met her parents, and I met her twice or thrice. They went back and back. This area is called Kumata. I went back and back. So this really haunts me. I say that when I stay in Kolkata, and we keep on saying, unless Sundarban survives, we will not survive. We just end up saying that. But what we are doing for Sundarban? Really, if Sundarban doesn't survive, we will not survive. The South Bengal will not survive. I strongly feel there should be a Sundarban tax. All of us should pay some Sundarban tax. The money should go back to the people out there for their development. Unfortunately, that's still not happening. But we need to consider strongly about what is happening out there. We cannot delink the climate security of Kolkata from that of Sundarban. We have to think together, we have to plan together, we have to execute together if we need to survive. So that's all it is. There are a few articles the both side of it. I really, there are two, okay, Sundarban Vidhasta Kolkata Chu. This is the mindset of Kolkatans. When Amphan hit us hard, I say disaster still now doesn't hit Kolkata. What hits us is inconvenience. You can't go out of your house for 2-3 days because in my Baligan Road flat in front, the trees were broken and the car being stopped. Maybe the water is not coming. Maybe the electricity has gone for a while. So we are inconvenienced. Our livelihood, our life is not at stake. But think about those people who live out there in these areas. Their life is at stake. You cannot imagine a lady called Muslima Bibi. I went there after a debacle and was giving some relief materials. She came to me, a young lady, all smiling, saying, "Sir, Ar6 ki jhod asaর সম্ভাবনা আছে?" I was struck. I said, "Who told you? Have you heard?" "না স্যার, কেউ বলছিল যে Ar6 থেকে ঝড় আসতে পারে।" হেসে হেসে বলছিল। আমি তো বললাম যে আমি জানি না, আমি দেখছি, খবর নিচ্ছি, কিন্তু কেন বলুন তো? বললাম আসলে কি হয়েছে, গত 6 মাসে আমি আমার দুটো বাচ্চা আছে, আমার বর রাজমিস্ত্রির কাজ করে, তো প্রথমবার আমফানে আমাদের ছাদটা উড়ে গেছিল। তো আমি কোনো টাকা পয়সা পাইনি, আমি অনেক কষ্টে টাকা জোগাড় করে, তোমরা কি করলে? বললো আমরা ঘরের কোণে কোনো রকমে একটা লাঠি ধরে বসেছিলাম, বেঁচে গেছি। তারপরে আমরা 5-6 মাসে অনেক টাকাটাকে একটু জমিয়ে ছাদটা করলাম, এই ছাদটাও আবার উড়ে গেছে। আবার আমরা এটা করার চেষ্টা করছি, তো আবার কি স্যার একটা ঝড় আসবে? I felt completely ashamed. I felt so little in front of her. So what the hell we are doing? We are talking with the confines of the rooms and all that. We are talking among ourselves. This is very important. I am not belittling it. It's very important. This discussion, this discourse, this whole everything is very important. It is not important unless it leads to the next action that's on ground. Awareness is very important, but unless it is followed by action, it doesn't make any sense. And aware people doing nothing is hopeless. So my only urge is to all of you, it's a very new generation out there. I think you are the future. I don't consider that we are the past. We are the future as well. Many people say, our time has gone. I don't subscribe to that. Till the day we live, we have to do something about it. But you have a longer. So you really can learn from us, or rather unlearn from us. Whatever we are doing or we have done wrongly, you should not follow that path. You should take the proper path. That's the best part of it. So, সুন্দরবন যখন ধাক্কা খেলো, যখন আমরা ধাক্কা খেলাম, আমরা রোববার সকাল অবধি একটা বাস নিয়ে রিলিফ মেটেরিয়াল নিয়ে দৌড়ে গেলাম সুন্দরবন, খুব দরকারি। People got a lot of support for it. But যখন বুলবুল হলো, when Bulbul happened in 2019, which raged through Sundarban from west to east and went to Bangladesh, entire Sundarban was devastated. Nothing. It's not only your fault, it's our fault as well. Hardly few newspapers covered it. I tried to do whatever in little way in my paper or the international papers where I do, but there's very little. একজন আমায় বললো, কেউ তো মারা যায়নি। Now the benchmark is কেউ মারা যায়নি. So unless there is a death, Unless there is a KK event, we do not rise to the situation what's happening out there. It's just like that. Unless people are dying, we don't do. But I can assure you that the war is on. We are talking about Ukraine war, but the climate war is on. Whatever you see in COVID is just a trailer. Picture abhi baki hai. Thank you everybody.
Thank you so much, sir, because there's so much takeaway from his speech that students, I'm sure it was a lot of learning experience. You have to think like a global citizen, not just a national citizen. Something he had said very pertinent, you know, that would solve, sir, I think a lot of problems. Most of the politics problem that started this would solve it. Thank you so much. That was an enriching experience, I'm sure, for all of the students. Thank you so much for being here with us, for enlightening our students. Thank you. This event of Sister Nivedita University would not have been much possible without the help and support of CMA. And essential part of that is General Manager Anirban Bhattacharya. He's here with us. We're extremely grateful. In fact, because of CMA, our poster competition has reached a lot of people, a lot of students. Even we've received entries from Annamala University and Ramakrishna Mission in the state and outside as well. Thank you so much. I would request him to please come up on stage, and I would request the Vice Chancellor to felicitate him, please.
Hello.
Request the students to please come up and felicitate Mr. Bhattacharya. Sir, if you...
लाइट जला अरे इनके छुट्टे बोल क्या मास्क है ना कैसे बहुत हाइजीन
So, we had a, unique competition this year. But, as I said, thanks to Calcutta Management Association for partnering with us, and Mr. Annubad Bhattacharya, if you can say a few words for our students, please.
Thank you, Indira. Thanks to Sister Nivedita University. After these two people saying something about World Environment Day, saying something, I was really feeling there should be a silence. Absolutely silence. When I was in class 11 and 12, my teacher used to tell me, after you go through something heavy which is very important for you to take in, you should have silence. So after what both of them said, I really should not say anything, but I can only thank them for being here, for trying to doing something which we should also do and come up to do something about it. You know, I have only one small story to share with you. This is a story I heard pretty some time back, and I really take that with me wherever I go. You know, my voice is still cracking. The way Joyanta sir told everything about what's happening, you should really take it back. You know, it's probably a Facebook story or an Instagram story, I don't know. It's, all of you know it, but I'll take the risk of repeating it. It's a very simple story. A grandfather and a grandson, they were walking by a ocean, beach. Grandfather he was taking a sunbath, he was relaxing. Suddenly he saw his grandson do something very weird. The grandson was picking up something, he was picking up something, throwing it. The grandfather thought, what exactly is he doing? Has he gone mad or something? He went and said, "Are Baba, ki kochota ki hoche?" I presume them to be Bengali. So I'm using Bengali. The grandson said, "Dadu, dekhte paccho na, starfish gulo more jacche, oigulo chhote chhote felchi. I'm throwing them into the water and throwing them back." Dadu really was, he was astonished. He was looking from this side to that side. Baba, কতগুলো আছে, তুমি কতগুলোকে ফেলবে? How many would you rescue? This grandson was absolutely taken aback. He thought for some time. He really thought of doing something, not doing something now. He should stop. But at last, he picked up another starfish. He threw it back to the ocean. He said, "I made a difference to this one." So that is what we should do. I know that it's difficult. I doing something is not going to make a difference. But if every eye does something, it is really going to make a difference. Each and every one of you, do your bit. Do your bit. Just a small bit. Maybe it will make a difference. It's just like a team playing. A team does not play. There is no existence of a team without one player. So if every player does something, one catch, one run, maybe at the end of the day we'll win the match. As Sir said, the war is on. Let's be the soldiers to it. Let's do it. Thank you. Thanks to SNU for doing this. Thanks to everyone, to all the students being here, to the teachers, the faculty. Thank you.
We have, as you know, for the poster competition, we had few categories, and it's time now to announce the results. We're extremely grateful to all the students of SNU and different colleges and universities that have participated. I would, across all categories, I would read out the names of the students who received the first as a selection. Konkona Sarkar, Techno India Group of Public School, Hooghly. She'll receive the first prize. There are other winners in the first prize as well, with the first prize as well. Unkita Dash, TIJPS Falakata, students from our schools, TIJPS schools. A big round of applause, please, as I announce their names. Prerona Munshi from TIJPS schools as well, and Nirmalendu Mukherjee, Ramakrishna Mission, Vivekananda Centenary College. He's also got the first prize. And Nirmalendu is here with us today. Can we please have him so that the Vice Chancellor and Mr. Bhattacharya can hand him over the voucher that we have. Nirmalendu, are you there? Can you please come up? Please come up. Please come up. The topic that he had selected was environment and sustainability, and it is wonderful creation that got him this. I will announce the names of other winners as well. Shobham Shet, Shubhalokhi Dash, Shayoni Chakravarti, Gargi Modhale, Hariharan V, Latika Bansal, Priyabrata Gupta, Nandana R. these are the names of the winners. We will reach out to them and give them certificates and their vouchers. Thank you so much to everybody, and I would request our HR Director, Indira Bose, to please give the concluding remarks.
Thank you, Indira. Whom should I thank? Madam Dr. Indira Chakravarti, Mr. Vasu, awesome. Dr. Biswas, mind-opening, eye-opener. Your speeches were really, as Anirban just said, we should have a big silence after all that you have said to absorb. We need to absorb. Mr. Vasu, I would request you to visit our campus more often, interact with our students of mass comm and journalism, as well as those of law. I'm sure they will benefit from your talk. And as you have suggested, I'm sure VC sir will also agree that we together can do certain things on climate change issues. We have a full campus full of students who will support you. Dr. Indira Chakravarti, our nutrition students will definitely want you to be their guide, their advisor. And of course, all of us need to learn a lot from you. Dr. Biswas is always our support. He's always behind us. This program was the brainchild of my dear Indira. The entire thing has been organized by her. I was in the back seat this time. I led her to do it. She has carried it forward. Of course, Calcutta Management Association, being a Monday, middle of the day, it was difficult for their president, vice president and all to come and attend. But Anirban, of course, made it. Thank you, Anirban. Thank you for the support. Thank you for the reach through social media, the reach that they have helped us for the competition, poster competition. The participants were all from Pune and Kerala even. So we are really proud and thankful to Calcutta Management Association. I should extend a special thanks to 3 departments. The Mass Comm and Journalism Department. The students have made that video film, which Mr. Vasu has missed. We can share it with you to see. A biotechnology department, and mainly the Department of Allied Health Sciences. Students are here. And the Dr. Bhabakush Bishash, and I don't know where there he is, come forward, Professor Sanjay Dash. He has been till last late night, around 12 of the Rati Wala. He was working on the award winners, the names, coordinating with the judges, and we did it. Thank you, Professor Dash. Thank you so much. Thank you students for participating. All the best. Sorry, I'm extremely sorry. Professor M.P. Verma, he is organizing a special vegan lunch for the dignitaries, for the speakers. Being an World Environment Day, no non-veg food for us. Thank you so much.